are moving on to page 14 of our yellow packet for our Algebra 1 Best EOC retake. Number 26 says, graph the function, then state the domain and range. So domain and range. When we're talking about the domain, it just wants to know what are all of the x values for this graph, and what are all of the range would be the y values for this graph. So we've got an absolute value function, and what happens when you graph this, no matter what you put in for x, it's going to turn positive. So rather than being a normal linear function, we're going to have a graph that looks like some type of a V. So I'm just going to start by putting in my x and y axes here. My x side to side, y up and down. And if I think about this like y equals mx plus b, I can see that my y-intercept, if there's nothing here, what's the number? That means nothing, 0. So my y-intercept is 0. And my slope is telling me from this point, I'm going to go up 1 over 3. So up 1 over 1, 2, 3. Up 1 over 1, 2, 3. And then over on the other side, I'll do the same thing. So rather than having a linear function where it's going to go down here, my y's are never going to be negative when my x is negative. So it's not going to go down to the negative y's. It's going to bounce back up to positive. I'm going to go up 1 over 1, 2, 3. Up 1 over 1, 2. 3. We went off the graph a little bit there. And that's fine. And we got a straight line. And a straight line. Sorry, as my lines are made a little bit out of Jello. But I think you can see that that's supposed to be a straight line. So that is graphed. And m slope, right? B, y-intercept. That's where I got that information. And my slope, my m equals my rise over the run. So how much I go up or down over how much we go over. So that's it for that graph. Oh, and then the domain, my x values, right? It would go all the way to positive infinity and all the way back to negative infinity. So we would go from negative infinity to positive infinity. So that's all real numbers. And the range, the y values, goes down to 0, but it's never negative. So y is always greater than or equal to 0. And that's the range. That's it. So to practice this with some absolute value functions and some what are the domain and range questions, I've got 2 lessons on IXL. I've got TD2 and I've got FCY. So I recommend that you spend some time making sure that you refresh and remember what absolute value functions are and what their graphs look like and what domain and range, because these are things that you will see on your algebra end of course exam. And let's see, next one on this page, number 27, says describe the transformation from F to G. So f of x, so right here, we call this is y and this is y. Look at these like ordered pairs. -2, -5, turn to -2, +5, -1, 0, 0. X is 0, y is 7, turn to -7, x is 1, y is 16, -16. So on g of x, it's the transformation is always opposite for the y value, which means that g of x equals f of x, but it's the negative, it's opposite of whatever the f of x is. So when you think about that, right, the x's are the same. When x's are 1, for f of x, y is up there at 16, and for g of x, it's down there at -16. So when you think about how does that move over, that would be if you folded the graph at the x-axis. So we would call this a reflection over the x-axis. And to practice transformations, which you will see on your algebra end of course exam, I recommend IXL lessons C8G, (6YS), and 9TC. So you take a look at those lessons on IXL and make the judgment call of how much you need to do in there to remember what transformations are, if that's something that you need to practice before your algebra end of course exam. And moving on to question 28, solve the following equation by completing the square. And completing the square is that's keywords telling you that that's a type of factoring. So they want you to factor this out. And how do we make this a -14? We could have like -7 plus -7 equal -14, right? So if we had that, even though we're completing the square, I'm still going to come to my area model here. And I can get this front really quick to be a match. If I say x minus 7 times x minus 7, right? X times x is x squared. X times -7 minus 7x. X times -7 minus 7x. And then a negative times a negative would be a positive. 7 times 7 would be 49. So by completing the square, we get x squared minus 14x plus 49, I'm going to move out my minus 6 equals 0 plus 49. And I put in those plus 49 right here and right here because of this 49 right here. So I added plus 49 to this side of the equal sign. And since I did that on this side of equals, I did it on this side of the equal sign as well. And now to finish this off, we've got x minus 7 squared minus 6 equals 49. Now I want to get this minus 6 over to the other side. To give me plus 6. So I've got x minus 7 squared equals 49. Wait a minute. Why did I turn that to a minus 6? Mrs. Cameron, you goofball. That was a plus 6. That should be plus. And this should be minus. So 49 minus 6. Okay, good thing I got that before the end. Whew, man, watch your signs, right? Watch your signs. Never trust yourself fully. Always be double checking what you're doing. Okay, so x minus 7 squared equals 43. And now to solve for x, how do we undo something squared? You take the square root of both sides. So when we do that, it becomes square root, and this could be either positive or negative. Square root of 43, and this square root of something squared is going to cancel each other out, so that then you can add 7 on both sides of the equal sign to give you that x equals that 7 right there, plus or minus the square root of 43. And looking at the answer key, this is correct. And to practice factoring and completing the square, we do have IXL lessons for that. So I'm going to recommend you take a look at RD2 and XCL in IXL for practice with this standard for your Algebra 1 end of course exam. And now we are on the last question of the page. Your friend bought a used car for a total of $13,400. The total cost includes the listing price of the car, which is X, a 7% sales tax on the list price, and an additional $450 in fees. What was the list price of the car your cousin bought? So they want you to find what's the list price. So what is X when we take this information and write the equation? So the total spent is, right? The total spent is, so 13,400 is, right? Every time we say is, when we're looking at writing an equation, is the what? Is the equal sign. So $13,400 is the list price of the car, which got charged a 7% sales tax only on the listed price, and an additional $450 fee. So I know this additional fee was just added off on the end. There was no tax on that. But for our list price of the car X, they paid the price and a 7% sales tax. So when I turn 7% into a decimal to write it into my equation, 7%, right now my invisible decimal is at the back, and to turn a percent to a decimal, I got to divide it by 100. So I'm going to move my decimal up 2 times, so that's 0.07, and plus also the price of the car, so that'll be multiplied x times 1, right? 1.07, so 1.07 times that x. And that's it for my equation. It's now set up, and to find the list price of the car, now I just need to solve for x. So I can get rid of this 450 on this side, minus 450 on both sides of the equal sign. And that's going to give me 12,950 on this side equals 1.07x. And now what is the 1.07 and the x doing together? There's no symbol in between. That means they are multiplying. So the opposite of multiplication is to divide both sides by that 1.07. So that these guys can cancel out to give me x, the list price of the car. When you divide this, you get $12,102.80. And looking at the answer key, this is the correct answer. And if you want to practice the standard in IXL, I'm going to recommend lesson UFG. I hope this video has been helpful to you. Please know that Mrs. Cameron is here rooting for you to pass your Algebra 1 EOC exam so that you can be done with all of this math testing, and hopefully you're able to drop my class and enjoy an elective or take advantage of senior privilege so that you can get a little bit of your time back to yourself sooner rather than later. All right, guys, I will see you on the next one.